Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're going to completely dismantle literally everything you thought you knew about building confidence. Let's just jump right in and attack a very common, very comforting, but honestly, incredibly flawed idea. It's this belief that confidence is something you just sort of magically feel before you start doing something hard, right? We're conditioned to wait for this mystical wave of readiness to just wash over us before we take action. But what if waiting for that feeling is the exact thing keeping you stuck? I mean, think about the classic bathroom mirror myth. You know exactly what I'm talking about. You stand in front of the glass every morning, maybe you even write it in a dry erase marker, and you repeat, I am strong, I am capable, I am confident. But let's be brutally honest for a second. Doing that doesn't actually change how you feel when you step away from that mirror and actually face your day. Relying on affirmations to magically generate this sense of readiness, it's a flawed strategy, mainly because it completely ignores the fundamental mechanics of how human belief is actually built. So here's where everything shifts. It's the difference between an input mindset and an output mindset. The false belief, that input mindset, tells you that confidence is an ingredient you absolutely must possess before you can successfully act. But the truth? The output mindset reveals that confidence is actually the result of action. It's an output. Your mood follows your plan. When you keep the tiny promises you make to yourself, especially on those days when you absolutely do not feel like doing it, that action becomes the input. And the natural output of those kept promises is genuine, undeniable confidence.
To put it bluntly, you can't just manifest confidence. Wishing for confidence is exactly like wishing to be fit while utterly refusing to go to the gym. If someone wants to lose weight or build muscle, they don't just sit on the couch visualizing a six-pack, right? They get in the gym, they do the workouts, they eat the right food. Confidence is a muscle. You literally cannot just wish it into existence. You've got to put in the reps under pressure and actively build that muscle through relentless action. Let's look at a deeply relatable story to see how this plays out in the real world. Imagine this. At 21 years old, our subject moves clear across the country to California. No job, no money, and absolutely zero confidence. She's got $5,000 in the bank, and between rent and student loans, she is bleeding cash fast. She manages to snag a job at 24 Hour Fitness thinking, okay, great, this is about exercise science, only to discover on day 2 that it was entirely about marketing and sales. She was absolutely terrified, just experiencing massive imposter syndrome. But instead of quitting, she put in the reps. She committed to reading 5 books on sales, working from 4 a.m. to 9 p.m. and drilling every single day. She forced the input.
And this is what leads to the breakthrough. Right before her very first sale, she was so terrified she actually hid in the bathroom, genuinely thinking she was going to throw up. But she didn't leave. She didn't quit. She went out and she made the sale. When her team crowded around to celebrate, she had this realization: the money didn't matter. What mattered was that a fundamental, limiting belief she held about herself was completely shattered right then and there. She didn't believe she could sell, but by putting the reps into existence, she built the reality. Confidence doesn't care about your background. It doesn't discriminate. All it cares about is the fact that you put in the work to get it.
Section 1, Data over Dopamine. Okay, now that we've established confidence as an output of action, we need to talk about why objective evidence is absolutely crucial to overriding our subjective and, let's face it, usually negative emotional narratives. We have to choose data over dopamine. Think about a real-world scenario of a 100-pound weight loss journey. The progress isn't a perfect straight line pointing downward. There are spikes, there are really bad days, moments where it feels like absolutely no progress is being made. Our brains are incredibly biased, right? They love to latch onto the negative and magnify the days we fail, making us feel like we're just stuck. But by tracking the daily truth, the objective data of exactly what was eaten and how much exercise was done, you can zoom out and see the actual downward trend. You can objectively prove to your brain that progress is happening, even if, say, Monday to Tuesday look like a total disaster.
Confidence comes from data, not dopamine. Your brain requires hard, objective evidence to build a confident identity. It gathers this evidence over time, and that evidence is what overrides the emotional lies you tell yourself. When you track your wins, your brain objectively looks at the data and says, oh, wow, okay, I actually kept my word. I am making progress. You stop relying on the fleeting dopamine of just feeling good in the moment, and you start relying on the undeniable data of your own consistency.
Section 2, The Power of Tiny Tweaks. So how do we actually start generating this data if we're really struggling with consistency? If you're tracking things but still feel paralyzed, you are probably trying to take too big of a leap. The absolute fastest way to build confidence is to start with something so incredibly small that you physically cannot fail. We call this the power of tiny tweaks. There's this great anecdote of a fitness trainer who, for the first 7 days with a brand new weight loss client, didn't change their diet at all, didn't even put them in the gym. He simply asked them to make their bed every day and take a picture of it. That's the whole shebang. But by day 7, that client had objective data that they were capable of keeping a promise to themselves, which gave them the confidence to take the next step. It's all about shrinking a massive quarterly goal into a tiny daily checklist.
Or, hey, if you eat too much ice cream one night, your tweak for tomorrow isn't zero dessert forever. That's a setup for failure. It's allowing yourself just one single square of Ghirardelli chocolate. And how does this translate into a professional setting? Picture an employee who is absolutely terrified of public speaking, but really wants to be a leader. You don't just shove them onto a main stage. You use progressive exposure. Step 1, they speak for literally just 60 seconds on a Zoom huddle. Step 2, the next week, they give a quick shout out to a coworker. Step 3, they run half of a super low stakes meeting. Step 4, eventually, they're running the whole meeting, presenting to the team, and finally stepping onto the annual stage as a total rock star. The confidence built in that initial 60-second Zoom call is the exact same foundation that gets them onto the main stage. Section 3, put fear in your purse. We've talked about taking action, tracking data, making those tiny tweaks. But what happens when, despite knowing all of this, you are still completely and utterly paralyzed by fear before taking that first baby step? Well, the massive mistake people make is trying to eliminate the fear. You think you need to meditate it away or manifest it out of existence before you can finally act. But here's the reality check. Your brain is biologically wired for survival, not success. If you've never done something before, your brain makes you scared so you avoid it, and therefore don't die. Fear just means your brain is working properly. The goal is not to eliminate fear. The goal is to tolerate the discomfort. You have to accept the fear and act anyway. And here is the physiological reality of what happens when you choose tolerance over elimination. Emotion follows motion. When you step on stage, your mouth goes dry, your palms sweat, and your heart rate might suddenly spike to 190 beats per minute. But if you just stand there, if you don't run away, within about 15 seconds, that heart rate will drop to 150. Within a minute or two, you're breathing normally again. The fear dissipates not because you tried to aggressively banish it, but because your brain simply realizes you aren't dying. You literally behaved your way into a new emotion. So instead of fighting it, I want you to metaphorically put fear in your purse. Acknowledge that the fear is there, feel it in the pit of your stomach, and then mentally pack it up like a little companion in your bag and carry it with you into that difficult conversation or onto that stage or into that boardroom. You don't like that the fear is there, sure, but you take it with you anyway. Genuine confidence isn't the absence of fear, it is the track record of doing things alongside your fear. So as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this final provocative thought. Visualize the thing you are most terrified of right now. That one thing you keep wishing you had the confidence to finally confront. Stop waiting to feel ready. Stop trying to erase the anxiety. What is the fear you are going to pack into your purse today so you can take that first tiny tweak of an action? Because the moment you step forward with fear by your side, you earn the objective data of real, undeniable confidence.